Live view of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket as we prepare to launch the KF-1 mission from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Tyler Lionquist, and I am an analyst here at SpaceX. Welcome to our live launch coverage delivering 24 Kuiper satellites to orbit on behalf of our customer, Amazon. Today's mission is named KF-1 for the first Falcon 9 launch for Amazon's Project Kuiper. Project Kuiper is Amazon's low Earth orbit satellite constellation, which will provide fast, reliable internet to customers and communities around the world. This will be the third launch of Project Kuiper satellites this year, and will add another 24 satellites to its constellation. Today's mission marks our first out of 3 Kuiper missions. At T-minus 9 minutes and 30 seconds, everything is looking good for an on-time liftoff, and the range is ready to support. And just a quick note, at our customer's request, we will be ending live coverage of the mission just after the first stage booster landing. As far as weather is concerned, we've been keeping an eye on our launch commit criteria all night, and everything so far seems to be working in our favor. If for any reason we are unable to launch tonight, a backup opportunity is available tomorrow at 1:57 a.m. Eastern Time. And with that, let's take a moment to learn a bit more about the vehicle supporting today's mission. That's Falcon 9 on your screen. It's a 2-stage rocket that is 229 feet tall and is getting ready for liftoff in just under 9 minutes. At launch, it produces more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust, which is enough to lift more than its own weight. The bottom section is the first stage, or booster, powered by 9 Merlin engines. They'll burn for the first couple of minutes, carrying Falcon 9 through the thickest layers of Earth's atmosphere. But it's not just going up. Early in flight, Falcon 9 performs a gravity turn, a smooth pitch maneuver that tilts the rocket sideways to build up horizontal velocity. Because getting to orbit isn't just about going straight up, it's about accelerating so fast that it never lands. And that's what achieving orbital velocity is. Once the first stage completes its portion of the mission, it shuts down and separates. A staged rocket like Falcon 9 sheds the booster, so stage 2 and the payload can keep climbing faster and more efficiently. After stage separation, today's booster will land on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. And this particular booster will be returning to Earth for its first time. The second stage will take over from there, powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, also known as the MVAC. With its extended nozzle and optimized design, the MVAC drives maximum performance in the vacuum of space. And topping it all off is the payload fairing, a 17-foot wide carbon composite shell that protects the satellite during the uphill trip through the atmosphere. About 3 minutes into flight, both halves of the fairing will separate and parachute back to Earth. Now, both of these fairing halves have seen multiple flights. One is flying for its 28th time today, and the other is flying for its 27th. If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled from the ocean and prepped to fly again. So much of what makes Falcon 9 remarkable happens in flight. Those stages separating, the first stage landing itself on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, the fairing parachuting back, all to get ready for another flight to space. Every part of Falcon 9 is part of a larger design that comes together to do one thing: escape gravity. And that is the first step in building our multiplanetary future. At T-minus 6 minutes and 23 seconds, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues, and our payload is looking healthy. Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T-minus...
Stage 1, RP1 load is complete.
Good call out there. We've been loading propellant since T-minus 35 minutes, and we're expected to finish loading at T-minus 2 minutes. If for any reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 1:57 a.m. Eastern Time. Next up in the countdown, the transporter erector, or the TE, will begin to retract away from Falcon 9. That's the large truss structure that you see standing next to the rocket. It's hinged at the base and is connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage. First, we'll see the clamp arms open around the second stage. Then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket. It'll reach its full recline by T-minus 3 minutes and 40 seconds. You might also hear the TE called the strongback. It's the same structure, just referred to as a different name. The TE also does the TE also does a lot more than just lean.
Or strongback retract.
Good. So it sounds like we're going to go for strongback retract. It's going to start to lean away from the rocket now. We should be expecting those clamp arms under the second stage to start opening up. It'll take about 15 seconds for them to fully open. And there they go. Once they're out of the way, the strongback can recline away from the vehicle and give it room for liftoff. Looks like the arms are now open and the rocket is free. You can see it slowly starting to move away from the rocket now.
Strongback retract has started.
Right now, both stages are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant. That includes RP1, a highly refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen, chilled to under 300 degrees below zero. Propellant is loaded late in the countdown, and that's intentional. Colder propellants are denser, and denser propellants mean more performance out of the same tanks. The colder it is, the more mass that you can move. Before any of that propellant flows, though, the plumbing and engines are chilled down. That prevents thermal shock and boil off when the ultra-cold liquid starts moving. You might also hear that referred to as engine chill.
Stage 1, LOX load is complete.
As you just heard over the nets, there's confirmation of stage 1 liquid oxygen loading completion. The second stage will finish up about a minute later. The tanks are also pressurized using helium. That helium is chilled too, so it stays compatible with the cryogenic plumbing. During flight, that pressurization helps force propellant into the engines as the tanks empty. At T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup, and at that point, the rocket's onboard flight computers will take over. From there on out, the countdown becomes fully autonomous. Just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, then the 9 Merlin 1D engines will ignite. And once they're at full power, Falcon 9 will lift off the pad and begin its climb to orbit.
Stage 2, LOX load is complete.
And another great call out. So the first and second stages are now fully loaded with over 1 million pounds of rocket-grade kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. You've probably noticed those white clouds that are venting from the rocket. That's not smoke, it's actually condensation. As the liquid oxygen warms slightly inside the tanks, some of it boils off. That gas is then vented to manage the pressure. When the vented oxygen hits the warm, humid Florida air, it instantly condenses into those clouds. It's the same principle as your breath on a cold morning, just on a much, much bigger scale. As of now, the satellite remains healthy and the rocket is tracking no issues. Weather looks green and the range is clear to support our scheduled liftoff of 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
At this point, the autonomous flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and stages 1 and 2 are pressurizing for launch. Finally, we're waiting for the final go directive from the launch director.
The launch director is go for launch.
We just heard that we're a final go. With that, Falcon 9 is fully fueled in startup and heading into the final seconds before launch. Let's listen in to the countdown.
30 seconds. $15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignitions. Engines full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Kuiper.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. In just a few seconds, we'll throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q, the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. To help go from vertical to horizontal, the first stage performed a pitch kick just after liftoff, about 10 seconds into flight, which is a maneuver known as a gravity turn. The engines gimbal a small amount, and that slowly turns the first stage from going straight up
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
to going horizontal with the help of gravity. And eventually, will be roughly horizontal to Earth as we achieve orbit.
Max Q.
And there's the call out for max Q. Continuing on the timeline, everything's looking good. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. You can track our progress to orbit by watching the left corner of your display. That's going to show us the first stage velocity and altitude. Now we have several events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, SES-1, and fairing separation. MECO is where we shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage. Then stage separation is when the first and second stages of Falcon separate from one another. And second engine start 1, or SES-1, is when we'll light the MVEC engine on the second stage for the first time. Then less than a minute later, the fairing will then jettison from the second stage, as it's no longer needed to protect the payload once we're in space. So let's keep an eye out for these events happening back to back, all coming up in about 10 seconds from now.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage 2 startup.
Good series of callouts back to back, which again were MECO, stage separation. Coming up next will be fairing separation in about 30 seconds from now. As mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves once they fall back to Earth. They'll be taken back to shore by our ocean recovery vessel, Doug, once they fall back down to Earth. And we should be hearing that call out for fairing separation in just about 10 seconds from now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Here's a good call out for fairing separation. And just keep in mind that our views right now look really, really grainy because it's dark outside. We are T plus 4 minutes and 26 seconds into today's mission. The next major milestone is coming up just past the T+6 minute mark, where you should see the first stage's entry burn on your screen. To start the entry burn, we will relight 3 M1D engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly by the E1 and E5 engines. This helps slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's denser, lower atmosphere. We need to slow the rocket down to reduce re-entry forces, which then helps us recover and reuse the first stage. We're still over a minute away from the beginning of the entry burn, and you can check out the telemetry on the bottom of your screen and see that our second stage is still picking up speed and heading towards its destined orbit. On your right screen, you can see that engine burn, and the left side, you can see the first stage decelerating and making its way back to Earth. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight and enabling more investments in critical space infrastructure. Though the Falcon 9 first stage that is supporting today's mission is performing this entry burn for the first time tonight, the payload fairings are already flight proven, with one half flying for its 27th time and the other half flying for its 28th time. We're about 20 seconds away from the beginning of the entry burn. If you like, you can check out the telemetry on the bottom of your screen, where you can watch the graphics light up as the engines do.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's a call out for entry burn startup on the Falcon 9's first stage. The burn is set to last about 25 seconds and again is slowing down the vehicle in preparation for its final burn and landing.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's the call out for entry burn shutdown, the completion of the Falcon 9 first stage's entry burn. Coming up next will be the first stage's landing burn,
Stage 2 FTS has safed,
which is going to start a little over a minute from now. The Merlins on the Falcon first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. The single MVAC engine on the second stage has a much wider nozzle and is optimized to operate in space, producing over 220,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Coming up next, we'll start our landing burn on the first stage, followed quickly by the MVAC engine shutdown on the second stage. Coming up next, in about 40 seconds, we'll have the start of that landing burn of the first stage. The landing burn...
Stage 1 transonic.
The landing burn is the final burn of the Falcon 9 booster, used to reduce the remaining speed of the vehicle for a gentle and precise landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. And we should be hearing that call out for the first stage landing burn in just a few moments from now.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance. Stage 1 landing burn.
Good call out for landing burn start on the Falcon 9 first stage. And this is the final burn that this booster will see before touching down on a shortfall of gravitas.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
There's the call out for a successful landing of our Falcon 9 rocket. This was the first launch and landing for this first stage.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Good call out too. A great way to cap off this early morning mission. As we mentioned at the top of the show, at our customer's request, we will be ending our live coverage now that the booster has landed. So let's wrap up tonight's broadcast. All of us here at SpaceX want to thank our customer, Amazon. We also want to thank the Eastern Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting this mission. If you're interested in more launch coverage, be sure to check out spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. And remember to follow at SpaceX on X. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.